So, these are the causes of the depression. Tariffs are what? Taxes on imports. So, if people are putting taxes on imports, that means the countries aren't gonna do what?
Trade.
They're not gonna trade. There is an unequal distribution of wealth. What's that mean?
Unequal. A non-fair distribution of money.
That means most of the cash was controlled by a very small percentage of the population. And what were they doing with the cash?
Spending it.
Saving it.
They were playing the stock market. So it looked like the economy, looked like people were buying and selling lots of stuff, when in fact it really wasn't happening. Okay? People were making too many things. Why? Because it looked like they were selling lots of things, but again, they were only selling what?
Stocks.
They were only selling a portion of it every month. It wouldn't be actually sold till like a year, right? And that's what the credit buying is. Installment buying. Created, okay, the stock market, which we already talked about. This is poor banking. What makes a bank poor? What makes a bank good and what makes a bank poor? People having their money in the bank. Well, yeah, if the bank has lots of money, it's going to do well. But how does the bank get lots of money?
From people.
How does the bank make money?
Interest. Yeah,
Interest. What's interest?
They're gonna charge you more overtime that you don't pay. That's what interest is.
When I take a loan, so let's say I had to take a loan for my house, $62,000 in 1988. In 1920, guess what that house would have cost?
1,000.
Close. My neighbor bought her house for this. Her house she built in 1928. She's not around anymore, but she died when she was 106. But she bought this house, her husband bought this house in 1928, the house next to mine, for $2,500. But did she have $2,500? No, people didn't have that kind of money. So they have to do what? I didn't. Do I have $62,000?
No.
No.
Well, yeah, no.
I had to do what?
Get a loan.
I had to borrow it. I had to take a loan. I had to go to the bank or a mortgage company and you say, I want to borrow this. Now, a good mortgage company, do they just give out loans whenever they want? Or a bank gives out loans whenever they want?
No.
No, they give out loans based on what? That the person can pay it back. So what do they look at?
Job.
They look at your bank account, how much money you actually have. They look at your job. They look at whether you paid other bills. They look at all these things, so they give out a good loan. Now, in the end, guess how much I had to pay for my house? Because it's paid off now. I believe it was something like this.
140. That's all.
After 30 years or 25 years, 25 years, this is what I paid. That means what? This is what it was valued. This is what I paid.
It doubles.
That means the difference is what?
Around double.
Where's that money go to? To the bank. That's how they're making money. By the interest they're charging on their loans. Which is great for the bank as long as what?
You can pay it off.
You can pay your loans off. And here's what happened during the Depression, okay? People lost their job. I can't do what?
Get money.
I can't pay back, if I was in the stock market, I can't pay money on that. If I had all these new appliances, I can't what? Can't pay that back. I have a loan at the bank, I what? I can't pay that back. Now, if enough people can't pay that back, what happens to that bank?
It becomes poor.
The bank goes bankrupt.
The bank goes bankrupt. So poor banking caused banks to go bankrupt. That means people that actually had money in the bank lost it. So if a person had $5,000 and $5,000 in 1928 and 29, that was what? That was a lot of money. If you had $5,000 and the bank closed, you're on what? That's $5,000 you don't have anymore. It'd be like me saying, here, I had $60,000 in the bank. Bank closed, I can't get it. Now let's just say your town had two banks. One of the banks was really good. They made out wise loans to people that pay back, and one, well, they made some foolish choices, so the foolish one, what happened to it? It closed, it shut down. What's gonna happen to such a bank?
It's gonna get richer.
It's gonna get richer? No. Let's say my friend had money in that bank, but I'm in this good bank. What am I gonna do? What would you do?
Tell them to come join your bank.
He already lost all his money over here.
Give your
What would
friends-
you do?
Give your friends some.
I know what I would do. I'd go to my bank and what?
Take all your money.
Take all my money out. So it didn't happen to me. What happens when everybody takes their money out of this good bank?
Goes bankrupt.
It goes bankrupt. Even though it was a good bank. Because people panic. Okay? That was the biggest thing about the Depression. There was a panic. People panicked about everything. And then that's the domino effect. What's that mean?
Long after it keeps on going.
So one thing affects another thing, which affects another thing. So when I lost my job, that affects what? That affects my ability to pay back all these other loans, which is gonna, and if enough people do, that's gonna affect them. It's gonna affect them. It's gonna affect them. And pretty soon, remember what we said, a temporary business reduction is called what? Recession. A permanent or long-term economic decline is called a depression. So we can say the Depression started in what year? 1929, and it went, some people would argue, it went until World War II. So it could be argued, okay? When did that happen, you guys know? Well, let's just say our involvement in World War II. 1941. The end of 1941, December, so it's really 1942. Okay? So, that many years of depression. What was the Depression like? You want to hear some stories?
Sure.
Groucho Marx said, "I knew it was bad when the pigeons in Central Park began feeding the people." How bad was it? In the countryside, children ate roots and violet tops and dandelions and forget-me-nots. In coal mining regions of Kentucky and West Virginia, little babies famished for food chewed their hands. City mothers fought homeless dogs for possession of spoiled produce. One lady said, "I take off my glasses so I don't see the maggots." A father suffocated his 3 small daughters rather than have to watch them starve to death. Ooh. You cannot go 6 blocks in any large city without coming across a long line of destitute men, their hats pulled low over their heads in embarrassment, waiting for a government handout of bread, beans, and coffee, or bread, soup, and coffee, or bread, oatmeal, and coffee. Some went from one line to another all day, finally managing to get full after 4 or 5 meals. Some people were too proud to go on relief. That was what it was called. If you got help from the government, it was called going on relief. Some were too proud. A farmer in Georgia who was blind, had no horse, refused offers of relief and hitched himself to his plow. Pittsburgh man who had refused to go on the public was caught stealing a loaf of bread. He was so ashamed of himself, he hanged himself. Rather than accept charity, a New York dentist and his wife killed himself with gas. An old man who finally accepted $15 a week for his large family went out every day and swept the streets of his small town. Because he said, I want to do something in return for what I get. The typical story of former millionaires selling apples on the street corner is an exaggeration. Only one was ever found. There were, however, thousands of ordinary citizens selling apples. The street corner peddling was the idea of the International Apple Shippers Association in 1930. You would line up at dawn every day at the association's big city warehouse and bought a crate of apples for $1.75. If they sold all their apples at the standard price of a nickel each, you could make a net profit of $1.85 that day. Sometimes they did, but as often as not, many apples were spoiled or bruised, and so they lost money. And who was president during all this?
Hoover.
Okay, Herbert Hoover. So who gets the blame?
Herbert.
Okay? Okay? So he became the brunt of jokes. Part of it is because his philosophy is the Republican philosophy of government. He was a Republican, right? What's the Republican philosophy of government? Calvin Coolidge, what was his philosophy? It was on the test, right?
Mm-hmm.
Government that governs the what is the best.
Wasn't it
What's
like...
laissez-faire?
It's the business of America was business.
So basically, government shouldn't be controlling, shouldn't be doing things. Okay? It's up to individuals. That his policy was called rugged individualism. That means you need to pull up your own bootstraps and just work hard and what? You'll get yourself out of it. And because the Depression kept getting what? Worse, he became the brunt of. So here's the jokes about Hoover, huh?
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of cities had shanty towns that grew up back in the poor parts of where people lived in cardboard boxes. What were they called? These little shanty towns.
Ghost towns?
Hoovers.
Hoovervilles. Many people rode the rails. You know what rails means?
Nope.
They would sneak on the train and go from one town to another looking for a job. Sacks of your belongings. So you might have seen cartoons that have this guy. So he's carrying a stick over his head with a sack down here.
Uh-huh.
Or is that?
Yeah.
That's from the 20s, because
Yeah, it's
or
very
from the 30s really, because the Depression is mainly in the 30s. These are called Hoover bags.
Wow.
All your belongings in the bag. Some people couldn't afford gas on their Model T, their flivvers, so they would just cut them off and hook their horses up to it. Those were called Hoover carts.
Oh gosh, everything's Hoover.
People that were homeless would sleep on park benches. They'd take newspapers and put them over the top of you. Those are Hoover blankets. Jackrabbits. Jackrabbits were called Hoover hogs. If people were trying to what? Catch them to eat, right? Here's a joke. He says, I seen a jackrabbit and there wasn't nobody after him the other day. The second man replied, that ain't the reason. They can't afford to kill jackrabbits no more. They catch them and milk them and then turn them loose. One you seen had probably gone dry. These are called Hoover flags. Put your pockets inside out, show what? Got no money? Those are your Hoover flags. So you're blaming, Hoover became the blame for everything. And the other guy, his Secretary of the Treasury, was Albert Mellon, so he was criticized too. Mellon pulled the whistle, Hoover rang the bell, Wall Street gave the signal, and the country went to hell. Now, if you're in school, see, the school's the same thing. Because schools are based on what? Where does school get their money? Not our school, but government. Okay, from property taxes. What happened to people's property? The value of their property, what? Went down. So you're not gonna get as much taxes. So teachers went out on payless paydays. They kept teaching anyway. Many teachers would feed their students out of their own pockets. Some teachers boarded around. You guys would like that, right?
Huh?
You know what boarded around means?
We ordered.
So each month, a teacher would stay at a different student's house.
I didn't join the
Please don't stay at
You guys want to entertain me for a month?
No.
I would be okay.
That'd be boring. Oh.
No, I know, I said I'm too boring. Yeah.
That's not true.
But let's be honest.
Here's some of the things they did to spare. They reweave socks.
Any one of them.
So you take your socks, you know how they wear out the bottom?
Yeah.
So you cut them and re-sew them, so then you wear out the part that isn't wore. Or sheets. You ever seen sheets?
Yes.
Which part of the sheet doesn't,
No, I shouldn't have.
on the outsides? So they cut the sheet in half and re-sew it, so you use re-sewn sheets. If your shoes wear out at the bottom, you take old tires and use those as the soles of your shoes.
You just like use staples.
You take your old coats and reline them with blankets that start to fall apart. Roll your own cigarettes. I still remember my grandpa did that.
Well, what do you make it out of?
So you just take paper like this,
Uh-huh.
and they pour a little tobacco in it, and you roll them up and smoke them like that.
Uh-huh.
They're the worst kind. You know, cigarettes are terrible for your health. Those cigarettes are the worst for your health. He died when he was in 70. Okay? So, your job,
Dude, we should do
your job is to write a song about this.
Oh.
Okay.
And then dread it.
Oh,
my
brother did this.
Hoover song.
Write a song about what the Depression was like. Now, we know the person then, when they had the election, Herbert Hoover, he's going to get the blame. So when the election of 1932 comes around,
You ain't getting no votes.
okay, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, wins by a landslide. And he promises the people what? I'm going to promise you a New Deal. And next time we're going to talk about all the different things. Government shot up under Roosevelt's New Deal. We used to have a balanced budget. What's a balanced budget mean?
It's really good. The something is balanced. The budget is
That means the amount of money we spend is equal to what?
what we owe. Yeah.
The amount of money we take in. We haven't had a balanced budget since the Depression. Our deficit right now is like $2 trillion. That means we're spending $2 trillion more dollars than we what?
Actually,
Are taking in. That means if you're spending more than you're taking in, where's that other money coming from? You're borrowing it. And so you're like me. Your $62,000 house cost you what? $100,000. Okay, I'll show you one video from a teacher here, Mr. What's his Beats, I think his name is. Beats. So you liked our
You heard me.
some of you liked our social studies videos from 6th grade.
For the song?
Here's one for the depression. So you can do like he does. He's going to take a popular song, well, it was popular at one time, and just change the words
Wow.
to show you something about it. So he's taking the song from Grease
I wish I could make
and does a song. You could take a popular song and just change some words. That's what he does.
We have to sing it.
If you want more.
No.
Just get out of here.
Yeah.
Where are we at?
We're too zoomed in. The actors.
Great Depression, when we laid a hand. Great Depression, how did it begin? Can't point to one simple cause. So many should have given us pause. Let's review what we've been through that led to the Great Depression. Farmers felt it first of all. They grew more than before to fill the world demand. Prices dropped, so they fell for major protection. Depression, depression, depression. 1920, profits explode. We produce more than depression slow. One's laid off, and it gets worse. Let's not market bubble emerge. Banks were in red with regulation, and the set of the Great Depression. Then came 1929, when you lose all your stock in the big market crash, and your bank didn't tank, and with it take your cash. Depression, great depression, great depression, great depression, great. So I'm stuck with no to spend. 25% unemployment. Great means the wage or salary. Join in the economy. Spend my time in the breadline to eat in the Great Depression. Live for me and movies where I don't have to think. Prohibition is done because I need a drink. Depression, 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 yeah. Herbert Hoover, our president, says rugged individualism will save us. Just grab your foot strap. Just drive them to the railroad tracks. And they sing the bonus army protesting the Great Depression. Police good tariff are remaining no trade. They open Hoover Dam, damn this mess Hoover made. He didn't cause it, but didn't help. He told us we should help ourselves. Now we live in Hooverville. Can we please get a new deal? Happy days have gone away now. Great Welcome back, guys. I'm Mr. Betts, and that was the Great Depression done with solutions.
Does that take that long?
No.
The dude with the wig looks like Jay Scott.
This is what it has to be, okay? One refrain, 2 verses.
Oh.
Oh, dang it.
So I can just write.
I mean,
Now, what does it have to entail? It has to tell me some facts. You notice this was full of facts.
yep.
he included a lot of facts. Of course, this is a teacher. So let's go to 681. 681. Oh, you're supposed to have 3 notes today, right?
No. What?
3 notes, right? After the test, 3 notes?
No. I did.
That's why I was
ordered.
going back crown.
What page, what page?
You were supposed to read to base 781 and take 3 notes to 778, 781. Which would have been Black Tuesday or Terrible Thursday.
Terrible Thursday.
Okay? Or Terrible Tuesday, Black Thursday is what it's called. Terrible Tuesday, Black Thursday.
No, it's Black
No, it's
Tuesday.
Black Tuesday.
Your book has a different than different groups have. So sometimes it's called Black Thursday. Basically, Tuesday and Thursday of that week in October caused the stock market to crash, which led to
What happened to Wednesday?
continue going down.
Wednesday was eaten by them. Because
Like there was a sudden,
Wednesday was
Wednesday it
eaten by
leveled
them.
off. Wednesday it leveled off, but then it took a dump again. Okay, on 781 it talks about Hoover's reaction, and he mentioned the bonus army here. Okay? The bonus army were a group of veterans who were promised from World War I, they were promised after so many years they would get a bonus. But because they were suffering, they wanted what? They wanted their bonus early. So they went to Washington to ask for their money early. And Hoover said you can't have it. And so they started camping out. And then because Hoover thought they were a threat, he sent in the army and drove them out and burned up all their makeshift homes and stuff. Now, if that would be happening today with social media, there'd be an outrage. But there was still an outrage. Because the newspapers reported it, and again, Hoover's popularity what? Went even further down, okay? Because of the bonus army. They didn't get their bonus for their frustration. So the election, Franklin Roosevelt comes in and takes over. If you want some other facts about the Depression, go to page 790, okay? Section 3 there. The other thing that happened, some people mistakenly say the Dust Bowl, okay? The Dust Bowl caused the Great Depression. No. The Dust Bowl basically was a period in our history when there was a severe drought on the Great Plains. And it was called the Dust Bowl because what happened to the crops? They just dried up and died. And the street lights would go on during the middle of the day because when the winds blew across, the dust was so thick, it would blacken everything. And the street lights would come on. People at night would put towels. You might have read in the paper of the protest they had up in Brooklyn Center. The people that lived in the apartments up there, they tried to put towels around their doors and windows because of what was seeping in.
Sand.
The tear gas stuff.
Oh.
Well, in the Dust Bowl, people were trying to put towels around to keep the dust from accumulating. It would just be inches thick. I sanded the floors in my house one time. I have hardwood floors. And the way my house is my upstairs comes right here. So this is my living room area, living room, dining room that I was gonna stand on the floors. And then I have an upstairs, the steps go up like this, and then the upstairs is over the living room, dining room area, okay? So what I did is I sealed this off, and I sanded my floors, and when I was done, when I went upstairs, up on the dressers in the upstairs area, was a whole coating of dust. So it gave me kind of a picture of what people faced almost every day if you lived in the rural areas of the United States because of the Dust Bowl. Again, they'd make jokes about that. One joke said a farmer next door came over and dropped a bunch of gravel on top of his house so his children would know what rain felt like or sounded like. So this contributed. The farmers are already having problems. The Dust Bowl even made it worse. The only good thing for the farmers is what? You could try to grow your own food. But again, if you're trying to grow food to make money off of, you weren't able to do that. So some of the other problems you could write about are in those pages, the hard times that people faced. Or you could look at specific facts about the Depression. But I want it to be original, so don't go and look up Depression songs on the internet. Okay? Come up with your own. Then I'll share one of my former students' songs. He did a rap.
Wait, did you record it?
He gave me a recording of it, yeah.
Whoa.
It was probably one of the best Depression songs I got. Although we had a guy one time, I don't know if you guys, who was on The Voice. How many have heard of that show? Somebody from St. Joe's made it all the way to 3rd place
Wow.
Really?
on The Voice.
What was their name?
He sings a great good
When I had this assignment for him when he was in 8th grade, he composed his own song and brought out his guitar and sang it in front of the whole class.
What year was he there?
All the years blend together for me. That's what, when you guys graduate from here and you come back, I'm gonna say, I won't remember what year you were from. I won't remember whether you're in high school or college or after. At the gala, these people that were, how many watched the gala? Anybody?
The what?
So the alumni people on the gala, okay? I wouldn't have recognized, I know each one of them. I couldn't tell what year they were from. Although Joey Maliki, I know because my son was in the same year. But I guess I don't know the year, I just know he's in the same class as my son.
And then if you check your son's
Okay.
name, then you know.
Okay, does everybody understand the assignment?
Yes.
So let's write this down in our planners.
Wait, don't tell me it's due next. I don't think we
Next
should.
time?
What? We don't have enough time.
That's Monday, it's got the whole weekend.
We shouldn't spend the weekend on a meeting.
You think we could write a song in a weekend?
Definitely, I think you can
Yeah,
write a
people
song in a
write
night.
songs in like months.
Yeah, I've never.
Like I said, it doesn't have to be totally original, you can do what?
No, you just said it needs to be original.
You can be Weird Al. How many are Weird Al fans?
Oh, I'm a Weird Al fan.
Okay, that's all Weird Al does, he just takes songs and what? Changes the words, just like this guy did, okay? You can take a song and plug in Depression facts. Plug in Depression facts.
Probably like took over a month to like.
Also,
Really busy this week.
so read to 794.
Oh yeah,
So read that section, 790 to 794, and write the Depression song.
I know, right? Nobody likes spelling. Just use
Yeah, just use grammar or something.
Really? Like, I don't know how to spell that word, just look it up.
The biggest laugh
Or
I've
if you
ever
do it on
heard.
the computer, just download it. Really.
You're so bad
Um, I'll take your notes, that way you get credit.
Wait,
If you didn't do it, then you gotta give me 3 notes. You need 10 points. If you didn't, you get 1 point.
Wait, is that bonus or no? Maybe it's in your book, Emily. I don't know.
No, it's not.
Oh, I remember I saw you working on it. So maybe you looked in the desk.
I'm gonna do it for the camera. Okay,
Yas, queen.
Hey, it's me. I was playing Fortnite with you. I was gonna.
Yas,
You want to play
queen.
Minecraft with me?
Yas, queen.
This is going on YouTube.
Okay, exactly. You play Fortnite. I play Fortnite.
Bro, we gotta get 69 views.
Bye.
No, we gotta get 69
Where's you
views.
at?
I don't know. No, we gotta get tons of views, yo.
Enjoy the night outside.
Thanks, Chase.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks, bye.
Have a nice day.
No, Bella's really. Sarah, where's the paper? Where's the paper? Good job.
Yeah.
Clara. Yeah. I tried doing it with like your ears come out and Sophia's first, but it doesn't work. So sponsor can do it. the crown back now, please? Yeah, but then
As long as you promise to quit celebrating that, celebrate something else.
I'm not actually celebrating it. I just have a bad reputation with homework.